reading, and I actually read that before Historia. So like reading that and then coming here to Historia and then like just getting this full like just story of the Amazons being created in this like beautiful rendition with this amazing armor and like the gods and the goddesses and all that. I was just like, this is it.
This is hot. Yes. I had seen people kind of go up for this on Twitter before I had read it, and I was like, okay, is this hype or
Is
is
it gonna
this
really be what it is?
is this really going to be what it's going to give? Is this just, the game?
All right, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of another relaunch. We're your host. I am Keenan. I always forget. Oh, I have been doing a lot of back reading on Shatterstar, so I'm gonna be Shatterstar today.
Ooh, okay. And I am the almighty and the all powerful sun man himself, Apollo.
Oh, I don't really like.
Ooh.
We'll talk about that later. Um,
Well, yes, we will, because I've got words.
I know. I can't wait. But how are you? So hello, sir. You just had a birthday recently.
I did, I
Welcome,
did.
congratulations, happy birthday. Welcome to another year of life. We love you, we adore you. We're happy to here to celebrate with you. How was that?
Thank you so much. And thanks everybody out there who like reached out and said happy birthday. I really appreciate all that. I had a great ass time on my birthday because I did absolutely nothing. And it was fantastic. You know, took off work. I
Period.
drove and got myself a Cinnabon because I really wanted a Cinnabon.
Yeah.
it was
Yes.
it was so good. I really just enjoyed like my day and it was great. So yeah, I've been having a great week. Really great stuff out there. This week's Hawkeye was really good.
Mm,
Um,
yes, it was.
the most recent Young Justice episode. Now, while it was magic, and
Yes, it
I will
was.
say, child, the chakras did look like they was aligning in some of those battles. But
That's
I will
funny.
say that it was a really good episode because Zatanna's really cool. I like her in that like mentor role.
I
It's
love
cool.
her in the mentor role, and I think the three characters that they use to be her mentees are like really good picks.
Yeah.
Holly, Tracy 13, and Mary are all really interesting characters, I think, in the comics. I don't know too much about Mary and the Shazam family. I wasn't
Hmm.
like super into them. I knew about when they were Captain Marvel Jr., because he was affiliated with the Titans. But
Right.
I think since the new 52, that's all been washed away, and I just don't know anything about them now. But I really like the way they used her powers in this episode.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool and like how they showed her connection to magic and like, the but let's not turn this into a Young Justice
Right?
thing. So I was gonna keep going.
This is the comic section. We maybe we should talk about Young Justice though one day. That can be like a
Okay,
thing for a future episode. So be on the lookout for that, people.
for
Um,
sure.
but let's go ahead and get into these comics for the week, and we'll start off with Winter Guard #4, and this is from Ryan Cady and Jan Basil Dua. I believe this was the final issue of this little mini series here. I did remember to actually pick it up and read it. Um,
Okay, good.
and I thought it was fine. I went back and I like reread all the previous issues so I could read this one, and it was like cool. I think the art was honestly the biggest standout for me during this arc.
That was really
Jan
great.
Basil was like sense of motion, the acting, the action, the fighting. It was all really well done. It was clean. It was crisp. You could like decipher it all. I do think that again the faces could get a little like wonky every now and again, but that's just something that
Hmm.
an artist will perfect as it grows. It's better than anything I could ever draw. Um,
So okay, same.
the story itself I feel like was fine. Also, I feel like it was more so used to establish Yelena and give her some more connections in the greater Marvel universe outside of Black Widow. Like something for her to do, see a little bit more of the Winter Guard, kind of just learn
Hmm.
about that corner. The Russia again. I think we have talked about it before, but it really feels like Marvel is matching the comics. I'm not, excuse me, not matching the comics, matching the MCU in a way that it's building out all of its little corners of its universe into something
Yeah.
more that you could just kind of dip in and out of. And I just think this was another facet of that. But I love Yelena, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I kind of thought that this was going to be a stealthy Elena like mini because she's so popular that I thought that like sure this is called Winter Guard but this probably mostly going to be about Yelena. And while it did establish some stuff for her to do outside of Black Widow because Black Widow wasn't in this at all, um
Mhm.
it really was about like the Winter Guard and about them
Yeah.
and them as a team and like get into them. I did wish I would have gotten a little bit more Dark Star in this entire miniseries, especially in the fourth issue on its way out. But yeah, I thought like the story overall about like Red Guardian and them like turning on Russia and then the spy stuff, it felt a little
Yeah.
like how we talked about in Black Widow, where it's like how many times is the Red Room gonna try to come back and get her? It kind of felt like that kind of story again with the whole spy
Yeah.
stuff. But so like I thought the story was kind of okay, but the art was really good in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. The art was a standout for sure.
Overall, I would probably give this issue like a 3 out of 5, and probably same with the mini.
Agreed. I was about to say overall, I think 3 out of 5 is fine. Like it was fine. I would recommend it to people. It's like a good. It's an enjoyable read for sure. But next up on our list is the Nightwing Annual, and this is from Tom Taylor. I don't know who did the art. I was actually supposed to read this. I just forgot to buy it because Jason's in it, isn't he?
He is. So this was done by two artists actually, Daniel HDR and Cian Tormey. Because like there are some flashback kind of scenes that happen in this, and sometimes they like to switch off the artists. So this annual is happening in Gotham. We see Jason like hop on top of this car and like shoot these people, and Dick and Barbara are watching it on screen. They're like, no, this can't be Jason. This can't be right. And of course, he takes his mask off before he shoots his last person, and it looks like Jason, and he kills this man. So Dick is like, okay, I gotta go back and figure out what's going on with Jason because he would never like murder these people like that. Something's going on, and we get this
I don't know
flashback
about
scene of
that.
how things. Well, he had stopped using guns, so I think that's why he was like, what's going on? There was this flashback scene which was actually really endearing, and it shows where when when he became Nightwing and was with the Titans, I guess remember him and Batman kind of like had a falling out,
Yeah.
and um he gets a call and it's from Alfred saying, please like come back and I need you to just talk to Jason because he had like a bad time with Batman or whatever. And he comes back, they have this really cool like little endearing moment where he talks about Jason is like, do you know how hard it is to like constantly be compared to you all the time, and like live up to you? And he's like, I trust me, I get it. And they end up stealing the Batmobile and going for a joyride and stuff. Later on, we come back to the present, and it turns out that the person who was impersonating Jason, because it wasn't impersonated, it was the real Jason. It was Clayface.
Oh, of course.
And um Clayface ends up finding out that like, I decided to be you because like you're the most aggressive one and like it's easy to be you. Like it's easy for me to just cause mayhem with you. And turns out that Clayface was actually working for I forget the villain's name, but he was working for this drug dealer who was like basically putting drugs into like Gotham, and Jason had been worried about this guy for a really long time because it's actually the person who the very first time he ever had to call 911 after his mom like overdosed because his mom was like on drugs and stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
Was the stuff that she bought from this same drug dealer. So like when he found him later, he like beats his head in with a crowbar, and him and Dick are like, Dick's like, no, you don't gotta like do all of that. But of course, Jason is like, no, I do, and he does. He doesn't kill him, but he does like beat him up really badly with the crowbar. And Dick is like, Dick was like, you didn't have to beat him so badly with the crowbar. And Jason is like, well, I don't think your hitting them with the sticks is any worse. Like,
See,
I mean,
that's
the
a
same
word.
thing. So overall, like it was a pretty cool annual. They had some really dope action scenes of them, and you really got to dive into like the differences between Jason and Nightwing again. They obviously did reestablish that he isn't using the guns anymore, but I still think he still has his edge to him. So I actually really enjoyed this annual. Sometimes Tom Taylor can be a little too like nice and optimistic with his stuff, and
Yeah.
I like when at least he puts in his books where like things can still get kind of bad, and
Yeah.
having Jason in this is being the opposing force to this has been nice. So I wouldn't mind if Jason kind of stuck around for a little bit in this.
Okay. That sounds interesting. I think I might pick it up. I don't mind the Jason Nightwing dynamic. It's fine. I think it's always interesting with the
Yeah.
Robins on how they're all like always have some type of complex with the one that was before them. Jason was always being compared to Dick. Tim was always being compared to Jason. Damien, I don't know what Damien does. I don't read about him, but I would assume. Well, and then Robin, Tim wasn't Robin anymore, right? Didn't that change?
Yeah.
Didn't they take that away from him?
Yeah, we just try to talk about that.
What would you rate this issue?
Honestly, I would give it a 4 out of 5. It was really solid and really good. I like the art, and the different art styles that jumped between like when there was a flashback versus the present were really complementary to each other. I like the action, and like I said, Tom Taylor sometimes can get a little too kumbaya, but I like the way that he's able to kind of not be so nice all the time, and using Jason to kind of bring in that opposing force that was nice.
Okay. I mean, that's cool. Maybe I'll pick that up. I love a good Jason story.
Yeah.
Next up on the list is Daredevil number 36, and this is from Chip Zdarsky. And this is the last issue of this like run, isn't it?
I think so, yes. And then there's going to be a mini series after. So there's Devil's Reign next, and then I think during that there's like a Daredevil mini that's going on. Again with my girl list.
Are you going to read the Devil's Reign mini?
Oh yeah, I'm in it now. I'm in. So far, I'm in it now. I've been enjoying a lot of the stuff on Daredevil. I will say this issue itself was all right.
Okay.
It kind of felt like a wrap up issue. So we start with it's a flash forward, and Matt is getting out of jail now. So he served his time, and now he's getting out of jail. Basically, Foggy was able to get his sentence like cut down short or whatever. So now he's out of jail. Elektra picks him up, and she tells him, I did this all to be Daredevil to show you that I could, and that I could try doing things your way. And he's like, I don't really know, like you've done this before. I don't know if I trust you doing all that. And she's like, no, I'm doing this because of like what I want to do. And because I want to show you that you can trust me. And he's like, I think, are you doing this because you're also doing something against the hand? She's been dealing with some stuff with the hand that's been going on in this series. So she's probably trying to take them down or whatever. But we don't really know what's going to happen there. She kind of like shuts him up, and then they make out because that's what they always do.
All right.
Yeah. So then we find out that I didn't know that Kingpin. We know that this guy in here had been like maybe Kingpin's son. And they talk about the fact that he did have a son before, but he thought he died. I thought Kingpin knew this kid was his son that was out here, but I guess he didn't know his son was still alive. So I thought that he knew that his son was alive, but maybe just not around him or something. But I guess he thought that he died. But they have a whole meeting, and he lets him know that, you shouldn't be trying to take over Hell's Kitchen. Just get out of this whole business. And he kind of like warns him or whatever. This younger Kingpin Jr. is kind of what I've been calling him. He still feels like he wants to take it over. Kingpin and Typhoid Mary actually end up getting married. He proposed to her in the last issue, so they end up getting married. And Daredevil shows up and talks to Kingpin on his wedding day and tells him,
the wedding?
Yeah, well, yeah, at the wedding, basically, like while Kingpin is getting dressed, he like pops up in his bedroom, and he's like, I wasn't going to, like, we've been in this circle this entire time, like, you serve time, I serve time, we fight each other. This serves no, like, we aren't getting anywhere. I'm going to try something new, and that's just happiness. So if this is what makes you happy, Go be happy, and I'm going to leave you alone. And I couldn't. It kind of looks like that kind of irked Kingpin, even though it felt like it felt like Daredevil was like being honest. Like, I'm just trying to be. Maybe happiness is what you need. So if you need to go marry her and do that, then be great. He meets up with Elektra, and she says, "I give them like maybe 6 months before they end up getting."
So Matt's back now.
Yes, Matt's
they're
back
they're gonna be like Daredevils together.
Correct. Yes, that's kind of actually how the comic ends. They kind of swing off and they're Daredevils together.
Maybe I'll tap back in now that Matt's back.
Now, see, that's fine. But yeah, it's kind of this issue was kind of like a wrap. It was a wrap-up issue. It felt like, you know, this is just how they're launching things forward. Just now that the end of this, Elektra and Matt are both Daredevils. Matt feels as though like he has to be Daredevil. Like that whole side of him isn't going anywhere. That's been reestablished. And you kind of have learned that at least when Elektra chooses to, she don't have to kill anybody.
Okay, we'll see how it works. I will see. I think I'll check in for Devil's Reign, see how I feel about that event, what's going on, how it like unfolds, and then maybe I'll tap back into the book of Daredevils with Matt and Elektra.
Yeah. So we'll see. I think Devil's Reign might be a little bit better than like this last like bit of this last arc of Matt being in jail and stuff. But overall, I would give this issue a 3 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah. That's solid. That's very solid.
Yeah, it was solid.
Next up on the list is was an absolute stunner this week. Probably like one of the best comics I've seen of all time. And that was Wonder Woman Historia, #1, from Kelly Sue DeConnick and magnificent art by Phil Jimenez. And can we also, first of all, before we even get into like the issue, it took them almost 4 years to make this comic book.
Wow.
So imagine like this was announced 3.5 years ago as like something that was coming out as part of DC's Black Label line, this book that was going to tell the history of the Amazons. And Phil has literally been drawing it since that time.
Wow.
He's been like over the last years. If you go to his Instagram page, you'll see little snippets of things that he's been drawing and like what they've been doing. And it's just kind of like, yes. It looks
this is iconic. Like
it looks
legendary. Like, this is wow.
If you are gonna take almost 4 years to give me a comic book, baby, it better look like this.
Like this. Okay? This is the standard. The bar has been raised because wow.
I wanted, like, after I finished this issue, I actually wanted Historia more for the rest of the DC universe. I was like, oh, give me an Atlantis so I can see all of that. Like, take me to like where the Hawks come from, Thanagar. Like, let me see all of that. Give me like some like this is what I need.
I need this. This is the one thing that you realize about DC is that they do have very rich histories in all of their corners, where if they actually took the time to really like showcase them, it could be some exciting stuff. I would love a Lantern Historia, and we talk about all the different colors and all the planets and all that kind of stuff. Fantastic. Like, I think that like when you really dive into these corners, they can be some exciting stuff. And shout out to the Wonder Woman corner. You know, I've been down on her. But
Diana doesn't click. But the other girls, they've been hitting.
They've been carrying it right now.
They've been hitting. And
the Wonder Woman corner have been doing some good stuff.
And you know, not Wonder Woman. Well, I think Wonder Woman Annual also came out this week, but Wonder Girl #5 came out this week also. You know, that's Yara's book. And I will say, like, I think there's still some pacing issues with that series as a whole, but that story is really finally starting to move forward. We're getting a little bit of Yara's personality. We finally met the other tribe that like her mom came from with those Amazons. We get a little bit of introduction into them and like what they do and a name for them. We also find out at the end of the issue that Donna Troy is teamed up with them.
Oh, Donna's back. Okay.
Donna's back. So like it's really picking up now. I was like, okay, so like one of the girls that was looking for Yara, she meets Cassie, and Cassie's like, she tells Cassie like, "Oh, we're another tribe of women," and so Cassie's like, "Oh, there's somebody else," and she's like, "Yeah, obviously," and they're like, "We're protecting this balance," and they're like, "Tomorrow we're actually gonna march on Themyscira," and she's like, "We have a warrior here who's gonna help us," and they pull back the curtain, and it's Donna. I was like, "It's
Okay,
lit."
maybe see, like I said, the Wonder Corner kind of. I might get tapped back into Wonder Girl too.
They're doing it. It's like hot, and
Yeah, it's
so
coming back.
you know, reading, and I actually read that before Historia. So like reading that and then coming here to Historia and then like just getting this full like just story of the Amazons being created in this like beautiful rendition with this amazing armor and like the gods and the goddesses and all that. I was just like, this is it.
This is hot. Yes. I had seen people kind of go up for this on Twitter before I had read it, and I was like, okay, is this hype, or
Hmm.
is
Is it gonna
this
really be what it is?
is this really going to be what it's going to give? Is this just, the gays going up for some magic,
Hmm.
or the girls? But no. Like,
Like
this was phenomenal.
the story itself was real. You know what I'm saying? It was truly,
Hmm.
it was like these women coming to these men and saying like, we are hurting, we are in pain, like they are being killed, they are being terrorized. All we want to do is like survive and be able to live and exist. And the men are just like, well, you can, but if you do what we say. And like, or you live by our rules and you do what we can. And like, even Hera says it, she's like, oh, the mighty Zeus has spoken. What else do you do that? And then like
Ah,
to see them like take that and still be like, no, we still want to like protect these women and give them this thing. And like the creation of the Amazons and how they all work together and use little bits of their powers
so
to like
cool.
put it into the well of souls. And then even, planting to get into the different parts of earth. And then just the women coming up from the soil. And they talk about how they are born with armor on because there is no innocence among them. Like they are strong and they are powerful. They're here like, so there's no innocence. And I'm just like, yes, this is what it's all about.
This is it. Yeah, yes. This is what I like to see. And
It
all of
was
the
so
different tribes and
great.
how they all like have their own
Hmm.
aesthetic. The like I'm not gonna keep repeating it because I will sound like a broken record, but just the art was it's stellar. The
Phil
colors for everything were like wow.
Phil definitely just like put himself in another league of
Hmm.
artists. He is top five of all time. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I don't know
for
what you
sure,
I don't know what you
for
want me to
sure.
say. And the person and I gotta find let me go look at who colored this. But like the colors,
Listen,
you
Phil said, ladies, let's not act like I'm not a legend.
so we had Hi-Fi doing the colors, RF Prianto and Romulo for Fajardo Jr. And they put in work because
Yes,
again, this was so detailed and intricate, and it was like to get every nook and cranny of color and pop, like that scene of Hera walking out with the peacock outfit on,
yes.
and like all the birds following behind her. It's just like, baby, look at this, look at,
And
and
just
then
like
even so,
all of the different gods, like the male gods and stuff, like the way that they were all
they
colored
look
and the
good
way they
too.
all look different and they all look
I
good.
I know this was about the women, but the men looked good. I'm sorry.
They did. They did.
They did.
They looked hot.
They were good. Like, oh, this was a masterclass in design. The Poseidon, King Poseidon, the like blue and then like
Hmm.
center, loved it, loved it. And I think
Hmm.
even after the
I
Amazons
even
were
liked
born,
Apollo. Apollo is probably my favorite god, and I didn't
oh,
even
his
mind
little
him being up
panties,
there in some panties.
his little panties. uh, and I think even when you get into like the moment after the Amazons are born and you see them meeting Hippolyta for the first time, like the whole story leading up to that, and like just getting more of Hippolyta's history, it was just like this was just a really well done story with like
Hmm.
phenomenal art and amazing colors, and like I know this is only
Shout
book
out to Kelly
one.
Sue.
She's the one.
That's
You
the
know she wrote
girl. Yeah.
Aquaman.
You know
I don't
she
know
defined
if
Captain Marvel. Come on.
oh, she did do that, didn't she?
That was
Uh,
her. Give her props.
um, but knowing that this is only book one, I'm ready for book two, but it's like, oh, is it going to be another like 4 year wait? Because I kind of
Right.
need it now.
Well, the
I mean,
ending of this did say that it was coming in spring of 2022. So let's
let's
fingers crossed we stick with that. I know there's been
Literally.
like printing issues. I think I've seen a lot of supply
Yeah,
chain issues with a lot of comics and stuff too. So that may delay some things. Who knows? But
that will be
I
it.
hope
But
not. 'Cause,
this was a
wow.
5 out of 5 book for me.
I mean, I could, if there was a higher thing I could give it, I would. But it's truly like
Shout
five
out
out
to
of
them
five. Wow.
because they did that. Like, who was your
Yeah.
who had your favorite design?
Okay. Ooh. I did like the tribe of Athena. Um,
They were
there was
cute
one girl.
characters.
I can't remember her name in here, but she had this look, and I was like, oh, I'm loving that.
Mm.
Um, oh man, I'm gonna find her. Oh, Niobe of the tribe of Athena. I loved that.
Mm.
She had this like fro little thing going on. I loved that.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I see that.
and the tribe of Aphrodite. I loved all the colors.
Those were dolls.
Those were
Okay.
hot.
Those were
Those were
dolls
hot.
right there. The tribe of
Yes.
Aphrodite. Girls were dripped in their
Hmm.
crystals and their
Woo,
like
yes.
glamour coming out the water. It was like, oh, this is it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
My favorites were the tribe of Aphrodite for sure. I also really liked the tribe of Artemis. They had a lot of like the more earthy kind of like bones and like woodsy designs. That Antiope,
Yeah.
like she was probably like one of my favorite designs with her headpiece giant. I also really did like the tribe of Hestia. I think Io is how you
Oh
say her
yes. I
name.
also that was also my other favorite one, the tribe of
she
Hestia.
she was like really really nice. I enjoyed them a lot. Hecate was cool, scary, but like I get the vibe they were going for. She was like a creepy kind of goddess. uh
Yeah.
Athena was also cool. They gave me very like classic armored warrior guardians. The colors were
Hmm.
nice, but like Aphrodite and Artemis, Hestia, top three for me for sure.
For sure. I think Hestia, Athena, and Aphrodite were my top three for sure.
Aphrodite had some dolls. Love it.
Mm. I
Love
was
it.
loving that fire with the Hestia. That was hot. The fire was so hot.
When they were like,
This was such a great book, and I also love the entire like the way that Hippolyta kind of like comes into all of this, and how like and when she meets the gods, and how it shows how like she persevered, and how like
yeah,
the first kid that she tried to kind of that she had to get rid of and that she kind of came back for, it did obviously die because they call
yeah.
it a soul at the end, like when the goddesses got it, but she said that she had something special for it. So it makes me
Mm.
wonder if that's like gonna be the one that like is Diana.
Mm.
Like that soul may have been
I
Diana.
could see that. I could see that. I don't know if I need Diana yet, but shout out to them and everything it did. We love it.
Yeah.
Let's go to next up on our list. We just said this. Captain Marvel 34, and this is from
Yes,
another
yes,
Kelly,
yes.
Kelly Thompson. And take it away, because I don't know.
This was another great edition of the War of the Marvels right now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
um, honestly, I love a good action and I love a good superhero book. And in my opinion, Captain Marvel is one of the best on the stands right now as far as just getting that like good superhero action stuff. But
Yeah.
what makes this even better is you have the inner monologue going on in every scene of that Carol's in, and of what's going on in her head and how she's reacting to these things. And Kelly has been like killing it with that. Like you really see how Carol really operates. In the last issue, Vox Supreme locked she he locked Captain Marvel in this coffin basically and shot her off into space. A coffin she once trapped him in. He locked her in it and she can't get out of it, trapped her into space. And he was like, I already modified this so that you can't get out. Well, we get this entire inner monologue where Carol's like, I have to break out of this. Like, what am I gonna do? And she's like, when I saw Monica use her powers to get out of her suit, because this entire War of the Marvels thing has been Vox Supreme has been capturing people who are connected to Carol and placing them in these suits and making them like just basically beat Carol's ass and like come after her. And she saw that Monica kind of like phased through her suit to try to get out of it once. And she was like, I got to think about something like that. My powers don't work like that. Like I can't do what Monica can do. And she's like, but if like shooting my energy blast, if I can shoot it from outside of my body, can I like place it somewhere else, like further outside of my body? And she like concentrates and does this really cool thing where now she's got a binary like second form now that like is
that's like separate from her.
And it looks to me like that it's basically all of her energy power into this binary form, and it appeared outside of the coffin and blasted the coffin open and like let Carol escape. And afterwards she like absorbed all of that energy back. So the one thing I love about power is the limits behind it and like how a character can use it. So it looks like similar to her photon blast from her eyes, where she was like, I can't see. Now it seems like she has this like second binary thing that can come out of her, but it's all of her energy. So she's left with like nothing. So that'll be kind of cool to see where that goes and how that works. She ends up getting attacked by someone else in a dark Captain Marvel costume.
Yeah.
And it's Marvel, the original Captain Marvel. He's there and she's like completely thrown off from that. They have a whole fight. She's just like, I got to take this someplace, or maybe he might like not be who he is. And she's like, in her head, she's like, I know that this can't be him, because while I'm attacking him, he would have easily eaten that blast. Like I know his power level. Something can't be right here. And she's like, he's got to be a clone. So he takes off his mask though, and then like she's like, she ends up being stopped in her tracks. He comes close to her. He's like, she's like, this can't be you. This can't be right. And they kiss. And because they used to be like in love. That was like her original. Yeah, that's why
I thought he was like always so much older than her.
Maybe I didn't see that. That would seem like they were around the same age. Like she was a spy and stuff.
Like a little older too, though.
So. She is. And they end up having this like really cool fight. They kiss, and of course he actually ended up kissing her and giving her like the goop costume. So he ends up trapping her, taking her back to Vox Supreme, and Phila Bell ends up showing up because she was like escaped before, and he ends up like Vox Supreme ends up attacking her. They end up locking up Carol. Carol is like, I got to get up out of this before he kills Phila. Then she uses her secondary form to get out of it, and Vox is like probably going to get his ass beat in this next.
This is still the Phila that was just in E-Wing's Guardians, the one that like came over from that alternate universe. Okay.
She's still wearing the same Guardians jacket, and it's even mentioned like in a side thing that it's Phila from the Guardians.
Okay.
I think they even call her. They call her like audible like thing, like his daughter, because she is Marvel's like daughter.
Yeah. I don't know how I feel about that.
You don't like the second energy form?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about it. It feels a little.
It feels a little overpowered.
Yeah.
But it feels a little overpowered. But where I'm getting the drawback from it is that it looks like she is completely
powerless while she uses
it. Like normally while she uses her powers, she's got like a little bit of a glow to herself. But when she did it this time, like
when the thing broke her out of the casket in space, did it bond back with her automatically, or was there like a delay? Did she say like, oh, because isn't a part of her power is what allows her to breathe in space?
Mm-hmm.
So was it like, I realized I can't.
Well, no,
I
don't think
this back up quickly.
Okay, between you and I don't think that she's ever supposed to be able to breathe in space. I think what happened was because there have been times before where she's gone into space and had to put her helmet on. I think over time, like they've just drawn her without her helmet on because of like branding and to like just show her face and stuff out there. Usually with her hair flowing in space and stuff like that without the helmet. I don't think that she actually is still supposed to be able to breathe in space. But there was a moment where she like after she busts out, there was a moment where her and the other form like look at each other, and where Carol was like, "Is this thing alive?" I don't think so. She's like, "I don't think she can't be alive," and she just absorbs it.
Okay. I mean, I guess we'll see. I will always applaud Kelly Thompson and her creativity. Even when she was here on the show, she was saying one of the big things she worried about with Carol was like, who is she gonna fight? You know, and she has continued to find a way to like challenge her. In a way,
she really has given her like so many new villains and stuff that I've always enjoyed. You know, I love a good new villain for someone and that feels like a threat. I will always say I love the Star arc with this. Ove was really cool with the magic stuff. And now I think Vox Supreme is a really cool villain for her because he is an Inhuman that like absorbed some of the Kree intelligence like serum. Mm-hmm. So he's just a mustache twirling villain basically, but it's someone who can like challenge her.
Okay. I mean, good for her. What would you rate this issue?
We'll see. Honestly, I would give this issue a 4 out of 5. Really enjoyed all the action stuff in it. I really enjoyed she also does like this energy shield in it that I thought was cool, and I still do think her photon eye blasts are really cool. I'm still a little I don't know yet about the binary secondary form thing. Mm-hmm. I need to know the limit. I need to know the limits of it first before I can fully get behind it. And so far, I'm the one inferring the limits, and it hasn't been explained.
I will say, you know, I think that's one thing Kelly will probably be fully aware of. So I anticipate some type of limits. And I even think about when you said when she uses the eye beam, she makes it a point to be like she can't see while she uses it. So I don't really think that's something she's forgotten about. I'll just be interested to see what it is. Maybe it is she loses all her abilities, but we shall see. Everyone's getting these power upgrades. You know, Phoenix Song Echo came out this week also. That's not a good book though, unfortunately. I hate to say it.
That's sad. I know you like her.
I love Echo, and I think that's why I don't enjoy this, is because it doesn't feel like an Echo I've ever read. And it's different from like a Shang-Chi where you didn't really know too much about the character or his personality, where you can be like, oh, they're trying to build it. Echo has been in enough books that have been very She was in Daredevil. Everybody in Daredevil has characterization. Like, it's the whole thing about Daredevil books. Like, they are like quote unquote people. And Echo's been in enough things where I feel like she has a very distinct personality, and you don't get anything of that here. It feels very generic. The writing the story feels like it's a way to tell a story about Maya and her heritage and her family, and they had to give her the Phoenix to do that, which doesn't really make any sense, and it's not really making sense with the villain. Like, there's even a line where she's talking to the guy. She's basically like, it's Adversary who she's fighting. She's like, Adversary met this guy to meet her so he could steal the Phoenix from her to use it to like destroy her bloodline. She was like, that doesn't sound weird to you? And it's just kind of like, yeah, it does. And like, you realize that with the story. So everybody's getting a little power upgrades this week because she's doing all her Phoenix stuff, and it's like, ugh.
Okay. You know, I understand they come up with creative ideas to give them power upgrades. I just like to see. Sometimes I don't need it to be too like zany.
Yeah, she's like making fire portals, and they like traveled in time or something. It's enough. But our final book on the list this week is a very exciting one. We have Action Comics number 1037, and this comes from Philip Kennedy Johnson. And Daniel Samperi has officially left the art duties of this book. I think he's still doing covers, but he is no longer on interiors. And instead, hold on, I have the name. It is Miguel Matanaka.
Yes.
Minden. Yeah. And we finally like hitting World, and we get a big action fight. And I love it.
We do. We into it. You know, I love a good action fight. I'm here. And I've been getting that all week.
And this, like, I feel like this is the space stories that you're always trying to convince me I should read, and why you think space is good.
Yes.
But it's just not something we get in all the space stories. But like, this is a good space story. Like, seeing again this Authority team and the way they've grown since that miniseries from Grant Morrison to now, and like working together, and I know we always kind of get in the comic books. We always see those new villains who just randomly get introduced and they gotta like beat down on our heroes because we gotta see how big and bad they are, and sometimes it doesn't feel natural. I was like, we don't have that issue in this book, and I think a big part of that is A, their designs, and B, the threat of Warworld has been built up over such a long time.
Yeah,
And
yeah, the threat is
like,
real.
like, and it delivered because the girls were beating ass.
Yeah. They are in this world fighting. First of all, again, there must be something happening with the Legion because this opens with another United Planets meeting, which I think was really cool. I love all the like the space politics stuff and like, I love all that stuff. So I thought that was really cool. But then we have the Authority fighting, and Apollo gets into a fight and gets killed, or at least very badly injured.
Impaled. See what happens when you fly first into things, girls? Stay down on the street. Stay down on the ground where you can be aware. That was a hot moment, though.
But
and it was like
Midnight afterwards saying he's gonna die I completely believe that.
Period. Like he's done it now. Don't mess with my man. Don't mess with my man, honey. Now you really messed up. No, we don't play those games over here. So this was a hot issue. Again, I even think we had Superman going against the new Mongol, and like they were kind of going back and forth. And he was like, again, you fought the old Mongol. Like this is the new body. Like I'm a new guy. I got my people here, I'm doing this. And then we also see like him stab Superman with a kryptonite scythe, I want to say.
Yes.
And like
in a
again,
very gruesome way.
Which shout out to Miguel following Samperio on art. I feel like that's a very like hard act to follow because it was so good. But he like definitely kept all the momentum up. Like it feels big. Everybody looks good. We lose a couple of people and the deaths feel tragic and like heavy. The scene with what's her name, Light Ray, she also bites the bullet. We lost a couple of people this issue.
Yeah.
There's this like scene with her where she gets into this moment and she kind of like apologizes to Superman and like letting him down, and he's very emotional about it. Like you feel all of that. Like just this book is amazing. Shout out to Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's been doing a great job.
And then you follow up just that one scene right there where he's in this emotional thing, like he's feeling for Lightspeed, and Superman, that is, feeling for Lightspeed. She's about to die. And boom, he gets impaled by that kryptonite spear. And it really there are a lot of times where you feel like the villain is just watching the hero give like a heartfelt speech or something and waiting for him to be done.
I was like, nah, don't turn your back on me.
We don't do that over here. I'm not on that. So he kills him. So this is hot. I never thought I'd be this into a Superman book, yet here I am.
It's good, and I think another thing about it too is like you don't know where the story's going. Like, obviously we don't think Superman is going to die, but it's like something's happening. Are Apollo and Lightray really dead? Like, what's going on with these characters? I love this book. Fresh, fun. I would have given this a 4 out of 5 for sure.
Mm-hmm. For sure, definitely from a 4 out of 5 for me. Also, at the end of this they talk about the how they could have sent a team of Daxamites, like the United Planets could have sent a team of Daxamites. And Daxamites have the exact same powers as Kryptonians. They could have easily helped.
Yeah, but that one guy's like planning something. He's nasty.
Nasty.
Watching him. This was a good week for comic books, honestly.
It really was. There was also a There was a Manhunter backup story in this, which I wasn't that too into, but like, if anyone wants to get some Manhunter stuff, there is a Manhunter backup.
Go check that out. Oh, also, The Death of Doctor Strange had a tie-in for White Fox that I read that was pretty good. If anybody likes White Fox, you should go read that.
Okay.
But, yeah, she was fine. I think I'm actually going to go back and read some of those Agents of Atlas miniseries now. They like have team members, because she was in this, and then the Sword Master, the guy who's going to become the new Iron Fist, he was also in it, and this was like
he's definitely gonna become the new Iron Fist, like duh.
So his sword shatters in this issue, and he gets thrown off of a cliff, and like we lose him. So Now he's got a pop. Yeah. So that was fun. But those are the comics of the week. Let's go ahead, take a little break, and then we'll come back for the panel.
Let's do it. All right, y'all. Welcome back to the panel section of the show. And this week, we want to have a little bit of a chit chat about superhero action and like who are they going to fight. Now, everybody knows that like I'm a pretty big a fan of, the action in superhero comics. I love a good fight scene. I love some power feats and stuff. But it seems as though a lot of my favorite characters who lean towards more the superhero, superpowered, I should say, area, don't really have anyone for them to fight. Like they can't really come down to the streets and get involved in Devil's Reign or any of the Batman stuff because it's like they could just shoot an energy blast and everybody's dead. But all of the people for the fight have been gone. So like, have you feel like you noticed that? Like that like a lot of the villains right now, especially in the Marvel universe right now, aren't really big or like powerful?
I mean, yes and no. I think that depending on what you're reading, I think a lot of the like superpower characters that you like specifically aren't really prominent right now. And I think the ones that are kind of are getting their stuff to fight. Like I think about Thor, even though I'm not like the biggest fan of this current Thor run, he was fighting Galactus in his first arc, and he's been dealing with like some heavy stuff there with his dad. I think about the Mighty Valkyries mini that I was reading. You know, they were going against Hela and like all these big demons and things like that. But I do agree that a lot of the other heroes, like someone like a Carol or a Wonder Man or something like that, if they were around, they wouldn't have too many people to fight. However, again, I will say that I think that is being rectified in Jason Aaron's Avengers run. I know a lot of people don't really care for it, or they just kind of have their opinions on how it is. But I think that one thing Aaron is really good for, and I've said this when I read the book, it's like big superhero fanfare action. It's something that you feel like you'd see in a movie. And one thing that he's done consistently throughout that book is like introduce villains in a very big way. Like the Avengers are Earth's mightiest heroes. They should fight very powerful threats. So it's like they have Khonshu taking over a bunch of people and like starting the whole arc that Moon Knight guest started in. You had Dracula doing all this stuff and like blowing up, taking over Chernobyl and like blowing up the buildings. Even now, I picked up Avengers 50 because obviously there was some She-Hulk content going on there, and I went to get that. And
I saw they switched the girl back.
She's back. I love it. Even there, he was introduced like a new Masters of Evil, and they're like super powerful characters. So you see them, and you get all that as well.
Okay. See, that's nice that he's doing it all about in the Avengers, but I feel like there was a maybe I'm getting old, which obviously I just had a birthday. I am. Like I feel like there was a time where like there were a lot more villains and stuff for these characters to fight where they didn't necessarily always have to introduce a whole brand new villain in the book. Like there was someone to pull from. Like I feel like there was a lot of times where, we talk about elemental characters on the show a few times, like where are they at? And I've been rereading a lot of the old Busiek and Perez Avengers run, and Firestar is on the team. And right, she's a character where like, really, who is she gonna fight? She can't fight humans. Like that would be overkill for them. But in this book, like there's plenty of things for them to fight. Like they fight this. They fight. I can't think of this. Oh, there's Overmind ends up coming into it at one point. I know there was another character. They ended up fighting a lot of like, I can't think of his name right now, but there was an old X-Men villain that they fought that the X-Men fought in like the 60s that like the Kurt Busiek just kind of brought back around for the Avengers to kind of fight. So stuff like that was really going on around. So like older villains were just kind of being recycled through. And it feels as though instead of like just recycling older villains back through, it's either like these books don't have villains or they just will like create a new one that always doesn't really like pop, in my opinion, because they don't ever like leave that book or they don't leave that arc. You don't see them again.
I think it could go like for one of two reasons. I think that a lot of books, and this is something that we've talked about before as well, a lot of people have kind of sanitized their villains. They've gone
Mm.
onto the more sympathetic route, or they've brought them over to the hero side. I think about New Mutants. That came out this week as well, and that's been dealing with the Shadow King and Amal Farouk and all of this stuff. And one of the things that it's been doing in that book is kind of redeeming him, or like not necessarily redeeming him, but like adding to his story to make him more of a tragic villain and a sympathetic character. And I feel like yes, that can be interesting sometimes, but I feel like that doesn't need to happen for everybody. And me personally, I'm a huge Shadow King fan, but like I've always loved
I was
Shadow
gonna say, I
King
know you're a
because
big
he's
Shadow
just
King
like,
fan.
yeah, it's just like but it's like he's just kind of a bad guy. Like he just likes the chaos. He does like I don't need everyone. I don't need to feel sorry for everybody. Like some
Right.
people are bad, and it's like okay, like it's not okay that they're bad, but it's like the hero's got to fight somebody. And I
Yeah.
think another thing of that is kind of like you said, people aren't necessarily really mining those old stories. Some people are. Everybody isn't really mining those old stories to bring back those like kind of like one note villains and really amplify them and add more things to their story. They are going more of a new route to like create new people or give them new designs and things like that. I think about I was actually going to do a little bit of a deep dive on Bartok, the Leaper villain.
Oh, dope. Yeah.
And while I was doing some research on him, I didn't know that he had like a little trio that he used to run around with and like do villain stuff with.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, where are these guys at? Like I would like because we've seen Bartrock pop up a couple times since then. I was like, oh, where are the guys who get hung out with? Like, what do they do? Where they go? And so I think that's what it is. And then another point is I think when you add in the wave that became heroes versus heroes in your comics.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I think once
Yeah.
that trope really started to take off and become a lot popular, it was just like, well, we don't need the villains no more. Heroes can always just fight each other.
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of fans end up like liking that really because like people always wonder, who would win kind of
Mm,
situations or who's
yeah.
clearing. And so they will kind of gravitate more to those hero versus hero things. But I really wish that we got more kind of super powered villains who kind of did some shit because like I feel as though that's leaving out a lot of characters who don't have anybody to kind of fight. Like, um, I should like a character like Moonstone, right? I feel
Yeah.
like she should be back around as like a bigger kind of villain for
Mm.
uh, heroes to fight or whatever, instead of only being maybe associated with the Thunderbolts or just kind of being brought around in like a cameo arc or something. I think that like the villain corner just probably needs to be built up a little bit more with more superpowered villains
I
so
also
that
say
these characters do have actually somebody to fight.
I think the X books are actually like, for all of their faults, I think they've actually done a really good job of introducing new villains and people for
Mm-hmm.
the X-Men to fight. I just think that they're not really holding the weight that I would like them to. I think about
Mm.
someone like Covenant over in Excalibur. I love a cult, like an evil magical cult that's like using mutant blood to do rituals and stuff like that. Like that, like how does that not sound exciting? But then
Right.
it's not that exciting. Or
Mm-hmm.
I just like I think about things, or even in like what was that? New Mutants early on in the New Mutants run, when they had like those gang of people who came and like killed Beak's dad and his parents and stuff like that, like the Terra Verde, I think their name was. Those folks, But again, this is like when was the last time? Well, I stopped reading New Mutants also, so I don't know if they actually pop back up. But
Yeah, yeah, me neither.
but even so, like when I felt that, it was just kind of like, oh, okay, they kind of got brushed to the side really fast, and now once again we're talking about like Cosmar and them in New Mutants. It's just like she's draining. She should be a villain, and they should end her.
Now, what types of like I know you normally don't get up into the superpowered characters, but what types of characters do you prefer to see them fight? Like, um the X-Men right now are superheroes and they have been mostly been fighting just random one-off villains.
Mm-hmm.
The High Evolutionary fighting that Annihilation Wave Bomb, like it's mostly just been one-off stuff, while the other two guys are kind of been building up into villains, but like that hasn't been too exciting. So like
First
what
of
types
all,
of
can I
villains
let
are
you
you hyped
know?
for?
I did not know that those were. I did not realize those were two different types of characters. Fei Long, I think his name is, and Doctor Stasis.
Hmm.
I've definitely
They
been
look
reading them.
alike a little bit, yeah.
I've been reading them as the same. this whole time, and someone was like, "Oh no, they're different people." I was like, "Oh wow." Um, but to answer your question, I think it just depends on the characters. I don't like villains of the week. I don't enjoy
Mm,
that because I think that's how you kind of fall into your problem now, where it's like, oh, okay, well, you just keep cycling through and you don't build on anything. And so, how does someone really get attached to that character, and how do they really build a history with the characters that you're following when they're fighting them? And so, it's like you got to kind of bring them back. I do prefer when it's maybe like a big overarching villain, and they just have like little henchmen coming in
okay.
to
So
fight
you
every
prefer
now and then.
you prefer the henchman build up to the big boss fight.
Yeah, I do love that little trope. I think that's always interesting because you get to keep that connection with the character and like have them in a way that they can keep coming back, but also you can always have them separate and just go do their own thing and go fight other people, which is I think another issue that I feel a lot of comic writers kind of shy away from. Like, don't be afraid to let your heroes go and fight somebody who they don't normally fight.
Yeah.
You know
We
what
talked
I
about
mean?
this before on the panel on the show where we kind of changed villains for other
Hmm.
characters with and bringing other people in. I think that might spice up some stuff too for people. I know
It
that
is.
like sometimes you can't like it should be more like a library, check them out.
Hmm. Agree.
If they
Agree.
checked out somebody else's book, cool. Well, then like go and pick someone else. But you shouldn't have to only be able to use the characters who you've already been using that are either A, tied to that mantle or tied to that
Hmm.
corner of the universe.
And I think it's how you let like your villains grow as well. We always talk about your main characters and how they have to kind of go through these struggles to like do things like that. If the villain is always just facing Batman every 5 days and he's losing every single time, it's like, all right, when he gonna go and do something else? When is he gonna change? I'm getting tired of seeing him do this now. And I think that could also
Hmm.
become a thing where so like you start getting these villains. Although people don't get tired of the Joker, which is like,
They say they do, but they really don't.
like that's somebody who needs to
I
retire.
just actually just speaking of him, I just watched the Injustice movie, the animated movie,
Oh, I forgot they
and
made that. I haven't watched it.
it was all right. They did. I wasn't a big fan of like the animation style. It's a little too ink heavy for me. Um,
Okay.
but in that they did Injustice. Watching the animated movie reminded me that the comic book actually did what we were just talking about, where they switched things up, where the Joker went after Superman instead of Batman, and went after
Mm-hmm.
Lois. And obviously, we see that shook some shit up because we got
Yeah.
Injustice out of that.
Which is
So
like also that's so crazy. Like imagine the Joker going after Superman.
ain't that wild, right?
Like what you think you're getting into over here, buddy?
Right. Clearly, you're gonna die. But I mean, it made sense for him to be like, in the movie, they reiterated that he's always lost to Batman. So he was like, why don't
Yeah.
I just try something different?
Yeah.
So,
And I think you get to a certain point with these villains, it would make sense for their story. It's just like they're people too. I'm sure they move and
hmm
go do other things. I might go to a city where Green Arrow is actually the guy now. So it's like, if I still want to do the same thing, then I gotta beat his ass.
I agree. I wish that there were a lot more of the super powered villains for these characters to kind of fight. Maybe that's why a lot of my favorite characters are kind of gone right now because they are too powerful to be around. So like there's no one for them to really kind of fight. Like who Wonder Man gonna fight?
I think who are some of like your favorite superpower villains?
Um, one of them I wanted to bring back, but I actually think he should be more of a magic villain, but I'll bring that up in a future relaunch. Stay tuned. um, but I do really like Ultron. I do love
Yeah,
like a
you said that
genocidal
about
robot
that.
or whatever. Um, the problem with Ultron, the problem with Ultron, and there might be time to maybe just update and get a new robot, is that he might be too tied to Hank Pym and all that kind of vision and all that kind of stuff. So like it
Yeah.
may be just time to get a newer kind of villain.
Mhm.
I always do like the Super Skrull. I love Graviton. He's one of my favorite superpowered villains.
Yeah.
Um, Count Nefario, also really, really like him. But again, those are all characters who like they're really powerful. So like who can really take them out? Usually Graviton, whenever they fight him, he beat the whole team until
Yeah.
like he can't like focus on something.
I guess that's the other thing I kind of think about for these superpower villains, especially is what is their goal? Like, because if you are so powerful, I imagine you just kind of want to destroy everything, or you can go up, do whatever. So it's like, do you have them in a space where they are playing villain of the week and you can see them a couple more times, or are they so powerful that you really only do draw them out for the next big event? Like, how many times do we see Ultron on a regular basis?
Right. Yeah.
Um,
He's become like more of a beat 'em up kind of villain. But I do think some of the other ones, like a Graviton or a Count Nefario, Count Nefario's thing was just amassing his own power, and he was like a mob boss. So like
yeah,
that was his whole thing, was just that whole motif or
yeah.
whatever, and just establishing that kind of power. I think that like usually you can have them either taking over something or truly just trying to like most of the time they just amount their business. Now the things that they're doing are
Hmm.
evil.
Is that what they're doing?
You know, Graviton is probably just like studying science or whatever, amount of
Yeah.
his business, and then things just kind of go left. But I do think that I
Mm.
think that I think that they may be too powerful so that they end up becoming like a villain of the week kind of thing, but you can give them more motivation besides just, world domination.
When you think of like the superpowered characters, like the superheroes that you love, lasers and all that, who are kind of the anchors? And we'll keep this like Marvel centric right now. Like, if you had
Hmm.
to pick maybe like six characters who make up the superpowered corner, and like you can take all those huge villains and you could kind of funnel those into those people. Who do you think are your core six? It doesn't even have to be
Um,
just like the six you think of most.
of most, whenever I think of like super powered villains,
Yeah.
Ultron for sure would
Well,
be
not
one.
even not the villains yet, not the villains yet. The heroes first.
Oh, the heroes in that. Oh, okay. Um, Probably Captain Marvel.
Okay.
Um, um, they probably mostly be Avengers. Um, hmm. I'm trying to think of bigger six than just my favorites because I would easily say like Wonder Man and
Uh-huh.
stuff like that, but like I'm trying to think of like maybe if they were bigger, the Hulk probably.
Okay.
Um, he would definitely be a corner. Iron Man kind of teeters on that.
Okay.
Um, Let me think of some more. Let me think of more people.
Yeah. I'm also trying to think of some. Would you consider Sentry one?
Mm, yeah. No, he's not like. Are you thinking of like pillars? You know what I mean? Like how Doctor Strange is like a pillar in the magic corner. You mean like
Yeah.
something like that? Like who are
Yeah.
like the pillars of the superpower corner?
Yeah.
Um, I would definitely then say Captain Marvel, Iron Man. Um, hmm, maybe Thor. I don't know if Thor
Mm,
is in like a he kind of teeters. He's like a magic-y kind of
I
character
was gonna
too.
say he's like magic and he's off in Asgard. He don't count.
Yeah, he don't really count.
Oh no, I
I
guess
don't know.
because
I don't know. I don't know if they. I don't know if they actually have too many pillars because that genre can be so generic. Like it can be
yeah.
so like anybody could really
And
be
I
in
guess
the
that's my
super.
thing too. When I think about these villains and these superpower villains, it's like yes, there are a lot of powerful villains. We say who are the people supposed to fight? Well, who are these villains also supposed to fight? And I think that's why they mostly get funneled into mainly Avengers uh, villains
Hmm.
as just a whole because it's like when you got all the superheroes together, of course that's when you got to go and try and stop this guy. But on their own, I think you really have to really build up that corner. And this is Marvel specific right now because I think DC actually does an immaculate job with their superpower characters. Everybody got a book. Um,
Okay. They do.
um, and so I think that's really something that I guess Marvel would have to do is like really just building up those like other superheroes who kind of like teeter that, giving them their own places to fight. Because again, that's the thing. If you got these people who are doing this kind of damage, they're doing damage. And so it's like,
Exactly.
you know, when Superman's fighting people, he's always taking somebody out to Kansas so he can do what he needs to do out there. So it's like, if they are going to be coming after Wonder Man, is it a thing where he's just okay with the property damage? Or are we putting like an invincible type of situation where we're trying to hold him accountable? Or is he flying them off somewhere so he can beat on them?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. That's too
I
much.
mean,
You just gotta keep it in the streets.
same with like no, I like the shit to explode and some blasts and everything. So we need that.
We got some
Like
canisters that will
Spectrum.
explode.
No, I don't. I want some like fingers to explode, some blasts and all of that. Okay. I need all that. But yeah, I feel like Spectrum was one that was like out there doing all of that.
Mhm.
Firebird. There was a time where there
Yeah.
was like a lot of those kind of characters out there, but kind of like you said, they don't really have the villains for them to fight, or who the villains are even going to fight, because the heroes ain't even around. So
Yeah. I
they'd
think
have to
that's
bring those heroes back around first.
I will say I do think, especially for, again, I'm kind of keeping this Marvel specific here because DC is fine with it. I do think Marvel's going to go on a little bit of a resurgence of those type of heroes. Again, we've talked about the corners of the MCU and how it feels like they're building things up. I think one that they're going to do is the space corner,
Mm,
and that's obviously got a lot of those powerful people there. I think kind of once you get the Fantastic Four in, also, you're going to build a little bit more of them up, and we'll start seeing more metas and stuff like that. And so that's obviously going to happen in the comics because the Marvel loves their synergy.
yeah, and now that I think about it, the Fantastic Four are the ones who end up like kind of letting all the villains out. Like that's where all the villains for the superhero characters to kind of
Yes.
fight kind of come. It's like they'll it's not, I didn't mean that they are setting them free. I mean that's where they like originate. Like
Yeah.
like Blastar, Annihilus, all of them, like they come from Avenger stories. So that's something
Mm.
for like the superpower characters to kind of fight, because then they end up being roped into the madness too. So I think that like probably once the Fantastic Four, once they get that MCU relaunch, it might be time to
It might
get
still
all
be
the other
Slot.
superpowered characters.
I like Slot though, so
Mm,
I'm gonna read
I
Reckoning
did
War.
not. Oh,
Jack of
I
Hearts is
think
gonna be in.
I think I might dip back into it too, only because it feels as like he on his way out. Like it's gonna be his last.
She-Hulk's in it, and if there's one thing Dan Slott does well, he writes She-Hulk immaculately.
Okay,
And Jack of Hearts is in the promo, and it's like,
he's in the
hello,
he's in the solicit too. I think he's like a part of the story.
he's coming. Like it's my faves are up there.
Maybe this is what I actually did, was for your superpowered faves to get some attention. So then now it's all gonna start to you know
Once
look
we
up from
get once we get my people out the way, then we can think about everybody else.
there. All right, y'all. Well, definitely please let me know what you guys think about any of the super powered characters out there, who you want to see them fight, where are they, and if you actually see them kind of coming back around and kind of building that corner up. So let's take a break and then we'll come right back.
Mm.
All right, y'all. Welcome back to the relaunch section of the show. And I've got some ideas, but do you want to go first? Want me to go first?
I'll go first. I don't think I very frequently go first, so I will. So this was a relaunch I was actually thinking about last week. There's the whole launch of the X books with X Lives and Deaths of Wolverine, and we know that the launch kind of relaunching. One of the things that has been talked about consistently throughout Marauders has been Bishop in his War College. And I know a lot of people are kind of thinking about Bishop in the War College as like an Academy X type of situation. He's got some kids, he's training them, and he's doing these things like to bump them up. I would actually like to change that a little bit. So my my relaunch is for Bishop's War College, but more of I guess the first responders. Like if the new X-Men are all the trainees and stuff like that, like this is the team that's actually formed, and they've
The
already
real team.
yeah, and they've like proven themselves, and they like go out with Bishop, and he can do his things like investigating for mutants or just whatever, and these are some of the folks that he would grab with him, and I would call this team his Red Guard. And if you remember during House of M, the elite mutant team that protected the House of Magnus that had Wolverine and Mystique and Jessica Drew,
Oh yeah.
they were called the Red Guard, and I think that fits in nice with Bishop. He is the Red Bishop. He works out of Hellfire Bay. His new costume is red, so let's keep that thing going.
Do you
Um,
like his solid red costume? Or would you
I
prefer
do.
to have some other colors in it?
No, I like it. I think it's fine. I like the
I do
like
too.
black
It's
X's
fine.
and the jacket's really cool. The scarf.
It's
Um,
hot.
I I did like in the beginning when they were kind of cycling him through various red outfits just to give him a few looks, but I like that we've settled on this one.
Yeah, I agree.
And so for this Red Guard team, I've assembled a small team of mutants that I would like to see with him, and they consist of Firestar,
Oh,
Jesse Bedlam, because of course.
of course.
Then you would have Dust. I would keep Hellion in the team. I would have
Ooh.
Toad as a member, Cypher, the girl Cypher, and then Mercury. I was going back and forth. Originally, I wanted Arrow. She was the one from the Crucible issue that fought Apocalypse, and I think she's great. But then I just kind of started thinking about it. I think her power is only to fly right now. I need her to do a little something else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's giving Angel.
and it's like,
But love the character though. She's dope.
yeah. So again, this Red Guard team is led by Bishop, and it consists of Firestar, Bedlam, Dust, Hellion, Toad, Cypher, and Mercury. If I had like a little extra leeway to add some more people, I would put in Iceman, and I would add in Sway.
Oh, okay. This is a
Yeah.
squad. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I try. I prefer like smaller teams, but I feel like with this Red Guard, you can have them be a little bit bigger, especially if they're going to be like some type of elite security force or doing whatever. Add a little bit of people, and I think Sway is a really interesting character. When that whole little secret X-Men team was introduced, she was obviously the one that I like connected with the most. Her powers are dope. I think it had a nice limit and range where she wasn't super powerful, but I also like the replay ability she had. Iceman is
Hmm.
someone who I just like to see step up a little bit more, and he and Bishop kind of do have a pretty decent friendship. So I think we need a little bit more Bishop being friends with people.
Yeah. Yeah, he definitely needs some more friends outside of just nobody right now. So so that would be
Yeah,
great to see. And I like that squad. That's a good team.
thank you. But
Okay,
yeah,
so my relaunch this week is my favorite DC character, and that is Mr. John Stewart, Green Lantern.
oh
And
wow, okay.
yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give him a relaunch, and it's time for him to become more established as like a superhero. My favorite version of John, I think, is still the pre-crisis version of him,
Okay.
where he was younger. He was younger. He was much more into being like a superhero. He was had a personality and wasn't just always just the one with the brain cells in the group. He was also a little bit more fun. And I think I would want to get him a little bit back to that. Whereas when he's in the core and he around all them other people kind of dumb, he kind of has to rise
Hmm.
and show that he's the one that is a little bit more focused. But I would want to bring him back and to Earth and have him kind of reestablish himself as a superhero. I think he actually was living in Detroit back in the day, but I would actually probably move him to like a more some random city or something just to give him his own like place in the DC universe. And I would have him start to actively pursuing dating Vixen and like show them
Ooh,
kind of building a relationship. Yeah,
okay. I'm
and
here for
like
that.
instead of just automatically putting them together, just kind of putting them on the same path where they're superheroes, like when they cross each other's paths or whatever, it starts to have them kind of date. And then that's how you can get into some hijinks there and really establish him
They've never
on Earth.
um they've never gone full force with that relationship in the comics, have they?
They have not, no.
Which is so strange because it was
That's
very
their thing,
popular in that cartoon.
right?
And it made sense.
And,
I feel like if you're gonna
right?
have a couple that is the black couple that is equal to Black Panther and Storm and Marvel for DC would be Green Lantern and Vixen.
And Vixen. You've got the science magic thing going on with the two of them. They both are hot, you know. It works. They
She is
both
hot.
would get along with each other. Like they have similar like backgrounds or whatever. They both want to be superheroes and stuff, and there would still be kind of conflict with them
Hmm.
about like probably who's wearing the pants or whatever. You can make up some stuff, but I think that
Yeah.
they would make a great couple, and I think the two of them together would like putting them together would just like make the both of their profiles rise, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I would
Again,
have them
they'd be the premier black couple.
exactly. So I'd have them come. I'd have him come back to Earth and really just to be a little bit more superhero-y instead of space cop.
Okay. Would you keep his ring green, or would you like have him go back to an Indigo tribe type of situation?
Oh no, he's Green Lantern. He's
Oh,
stick with the
okay.
green.
All
Yeah,
right.
ain't going nowhere. So yeah, that is my relaunch for the week. Let me know what you guys think about my new Green Lantern idea. Let everybody know what you guys think of Keenan's idea. You can find us. That brings us to the end of the show. So you can find us anywhere you listen to your podcast. Please make sure you rate and subscribe. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at Another Relaunch. You can find us if you want to watch us on YouTube at Another Relaunch TV. You can find me on most social media platforms at Uncanny LZ. Keenan, where can they find you?
You know, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Keenan Lance. There's an underscore at the end.
Boom. All right, y'all. Well, then we are getting up out of here and we'll catch y'all next week.
All right. Peace.